Hi, welcome on my channel again. Today I'd like to tell you a few things about diagnostic problems with aquarium plants. Um, well, cultivating a thriving planted tank can be a challenge to everyone, and what I'm gonna say in a minute is gonna explain you a couple of things that will help you to run your fish tank aquarium, make things easier. What I say in a minute. Well, cultivating a thriving planted tank can be a very rewarding experience, but many aquarium hobbies underestimate the time and declaration it takes to do it right. Not only do you need to provide your live plants with plenty of light and space to grow, but you also need to make sure they receive adequate nutrients. Like aquarium fish, live plants cannot thrive unless all of the basic needs are met. Unfortunately, many aquarium hobbyists do not understand these basic needs, and thus they end up experiencing problems with keeping their plants alive. If you hope to cultivate a thriving tank, it would be beneficial to familiarize yourself with these common problems, so you will be able to, well, avoid them in the future. I had one problem with my fish tank, which I'm gonna come back to in a minute. Um, you have to be well equipped to handle the fish tank properly. In this article, you will, what I'm gonna say, you will receive an overview of some of the most common problems with freshwater aquarium plants like mine, and tips for remedying them. Well, the first one would be plant leaves turning yellow. Live aquarium plants come in a variety of colors, but the most common color is green. If the plants in your fish tank begin to turn yellow, it could be a sign that there is a problem with the conditions in your tank. As mentioned earlier, plants are photosynthetic organisms, and they utilize light as an energy source to facilitate biological processes. Without adequate lighting, live aquarium plants will fall to thrive, and then may even begin turning yellow. Novice aquarium hobbyists often underestimate the lighting requirements for aquarium plants, and they find that after introducing the plant to their tank, the leaves begin to turn yellow because their previous environment was well lit. And like my fish tank, it's like 55 centimeters tall, but I've got about 45 centimeters water in it now. And as you can see, the amount of light is, from my point of view, good enough. Well, I changed some settings in the lighting, and now is a little bit better. All the plants that are on the bottom, they're thriving, they look good. There's no blackbird algae on them. There's some brown algae on the bricks and on the back wall. But there's no blackbeard algae. I can see the Anubias is growing well. It's got few new leaves. The roots are coming out as well, new ones. Also, red cherry shrimps. They come out from their caves a little bit more often, and I've seen two red cherry shrimp females carrying eggs. And that's the reason of changing the water temperature, as I mentioned that in the previous video about red cherry shrimps. I raised the temperature from 22, 23 to 25, 26 centigrades, And well, almost instantly, I noticed my females carrying eggs. Well, that was like after a week or so, I noticed that, but that was the sign that the red cherry shrimp need 25, 26 um, centigrades uh, to start reproducing. So that's one of the most positive things to me for now, because I want to reproduce them, and I'm gonna use them as a live food for my future mouse turtles. I know I mentioned about mouse turtles in almost every movie, or every chapter, but well, I'm going to get them anyway, so just keep calm and wait. Well, back to the topic. So the plant leaves turning yellow. Um, mm, like I said, novice aquarium hobbyists often underestimate the lighting. So in my one, it's okay now, and I don't have that problem anymore. I have an Amazon sword in that corner of the fish tank, and it was covered with blackbeard algae. I killed them with my uh, ace thing, I call it, in dilution 1 to 10, and it feels a little bit better now, as I can tell, but still is not good with it. The other plants are okay, but Amazon sword, as I think, needs much more light. But back to the other thing. If your plants are turning yellow, another possibility is that the plants in your tank are not receiving enough nutrients to facilitate healthy growth. If your plant, if you plan to keep more than one or two live plants in your tank, you should definitely consider using some kind of fertilizer under your substrate to provide nutrients for your plants. If you only have a few plants, you could try using root fertilizer plants to stimulate healthy growth. The most commonly recommended substrate to use with planted tanks is Eco Complete. Not only does this substrate contain more than 25 minerals than the live plants need to survive, but it also contains live beneficial bacteria that turn fish waste and uneaten fish food into usable food for plants. Well, another thing is problems with growth rate. When it comes to problems with the growth rate of aquarium plants, there are two possibilities. The plants either growing too slowly or too quickly. The most common of these problems, is the slow growth rate, and it is often due to a lack of adequate lighting, nutrients, or carbon dioxide, CO2. These are the three things aquarium plants need to order to thrive. Examine that the setup you have in your tank to determine which of these factors might be the issue. Does your lighting system provide at least 3 to 5 watts per gallon of full spectrum light, obviously? Do you have a layer of fertilizer in place under your aquarium substrate? And what is the CO2 level in your tank? Installing extra lighting and fertilizer are both fairly easy, but increasing the CO2 level in your tank may involve the use of CO2 injector. And I've got the CO2 rig, but it's gonna be ready in about a week or two time. I'm gonna make a video about it, and I hope you like it. But give me 2 weeks, all right? On the other side of the spectrum is the issue regarding aquarium plants growing too quickly. If you have too many plants in your tank, or if you stocked your tank with a fast-growing species, it may not be long before they begin to take over. Having a large number of plants in your tank isn't necessarily but a bad thing, because it will keep the oxygen levels in your fish tank high, but it could eventually detract from the tank's appearance and may limit free swimming space for your fish. To control the growth of your aquarium plants, try pruning them. Just run them back once a while. You can either discard the cuttings or transplant them elsewhere in the tank. Um, Consider replacing fast-growing species in slow-growing species, or introduce a few fish that tend to feed on aquarium plants. Um, well, that would be the last thing I would do, but some people prefer that option. You should also check your tank setup to determine whether your lighting might be more intense than necessary. You may also want to cut back on the amount of food you are offering your fish, because uneaten food will simply accumulate at the bottom of the tank and provide nutrients to fuel excess plant growth. What I'm using? For a long time now, I'm using JBL. It's a good, it's very good food for the fish, like guppies, mollies, and all those basic fish, I'd say. And it says on this one, actually, it says 6 to 15 centimeters of fish length, but it's still good for my guppies. Well, some of it is a little bit too big, but still, I use 2, sometimes 3 clicks per feeding, twice a day. Usually in the morning, 3 clicks, and in the afternoon 2 clicks. On Saturday or Sunday, it depends if I'm home or not. They have to starve for a day, and that's how I keep fish for a long time now. And as far as I can say, they're okay with it. So yeah, I'm using JBL Novo Grano Mix, and this one's good for my fish. As far as I can say, they like it. And I've got the flake food as well, but I use it as an addition. I don't stick to it. I just very rarely give them the flake food. Well, back to the topic about the plants. Black algae covering your plants. Well, I had that problem. Ah, bloody hell. I got that problem with my Amazon sword. Well, I tried to cure him, and I killed the algae, but he have to prepare himself. So I'm gonna have to wait for a week or two to see if he's back on the track, and I'm gonna let you know anyway. Yeah, blackbeard algae. I don't like them. I don't like them. I have problems with them sometimes. And I think I have them under control now. Well, many aquarium hobbyists are faced with that problem. The leaves turning black, but some fail to realize that the problem may not be with the plants themselves. The plants are okay, there's just water or lighting or nutrients. So it might be the dark growth of algae have covered the plant leaves rather than the leaves themselves turning black in cases like mine. And they if you leave it with some blackbeard algae, they're gonna take over the tank. Just a matter of time. So either use chemical stuff to kill the algae like I do, or simply just cut off the leaves, or just remove the algae mechanically, and that's the only two things I can think of. Um, I can't see that the just and do changes. Make sure you do 10 to 20% water changes on a weekly basis, and maybe do some changes about your plant food you add to your fish tank. Maybe change your substrate. There is few things you can do. Well, there's another thing about changing water, nutrients, and stuff. There are three essential nutrients for plant growth, and that would be, oh bloody hell. Nitrogen, that's the first one. Phosphorus and potassium. If one or more of these nutrients is available in excess, it could cause problems. So you have to keep your eye on the ball. In the case of excess phosphates, photosynthesis might occur at a fastest rate than usual, which could contribute to excess algae growth. High phosphate levels are common in tanks that are poorly maintained. So if you don't have much time, that might be the problem you have. Oh, I need some coffee, I know that. And the key to dealing with this issue is to perform a large water change, like I mentioned before, and to establish, then keep a routine maintenance schedule. Replace your filter media on a monthly basis, for instance, and replace 10 to 20% of your tank volume once a week. And this is what I usually do on Saturdays or Sundays. And this should help to keep your phosphate level under control, limiting the growth of algae in your tank and on your live plants mainly. There's another thing. There's another thing with plants, which is holes in the leaves. Sometimes I see holes in the leaves in 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 stores when I get the plants and fish from, and other stuff as well, by the way. But I never seen that in my fish tank. I never had problems like that. But they seem to have that problem in some pet stores. Well, and if your plants start to develop small holes in the leaves that eventually progress to the total extinction of the plant, you could be dealing with a case of crypt rot. It's called a crypt rot. This disease primarily affects plants belonging to the cryptocorin genus. Hence the name crypt rot. In many cases, this disease develops when water parameters in the tank change too quickly. And this is what we aquarists trying to go around. Well, yeah. So these plants do not do well when the things are changed quickly. If it comes to water parameters. If your plants seem to die back completely, as long as the roots remain healthy, the plants will come back once conditions in the tank stabilize. So keep your water changes on a regular basis, like every Saturday or Sunday or whatever day you like, once a week, then the plants will see the change, and they will work with you. They will start work with you again, and it's gonna be all fine. So if you do these things, your plants could eventually grow back. Ah, ah. Um, so, well, about the symptoms and causes of those symptoms. If your leaves turning yellow or red, there's a definitely deficiency of nitrogen. If your leaves turning brown, black, plants dying off, there's probably excess of phosphate. If old leaves developing yellow spots, new leaves have yellow edges on, that must be potassium deficiency. Old leaves, if old leaves developing yellow spots, veins staying green, that's magnesium deficiency. Yeah, that's for definite, that's magnesium. If old leaves developing yellow spots, veins staying, but veins staying green, that's magnesium deficiency. If yellow spots developing on veins, margins or tips of leaves, that's zinc deficiency. That's very rare, but that's zinc deficiency. If your plants failing to grow properly, white deposits on new growth. If you have white stuff on on new growth, that's the carbon dioxide deficiency. There's a lot of stuff, you see. Um, if your leaves yellowing from the tip then become transparent, that's iron deficiency. Yeah. Um, um, well, a planted tank is not significantly different from a standard freshwater tank, but these are a few things you need to be aware of if you want to succeed. Keep in mind that plants are photosynthetic organisms, which means they require light as an energy source to survive. Without adequate lighting and proper nutrients, your life plants will never thrive. Do yourself and your fish a favor by setting up your planted tank properly. The first time, then you will be less likely to experience these common issues. Um, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, thumbs up, and see you next time.